Our homily today is on radical welcoming and how we remodeled our church. I've been trying to define for myself the idea of radical welcoming, and I remembered learning as a child about certain tribes and traditions who, when a stranger arrives at their doorstep, they're taught to welcome them in, offer them food, drink, maybe even depriving themselves and their children in that time. The stranger gets treated well. When I learned that was a tradition, I wondered why. What purpose does it serve a family, a community to be welcoming? That stranger moves on, and the family is the poorer for it? Not so. Because in the welcoming, there is transformation. For me, that's the definition of radical welcoming. So the welcoming is tied to transformation. You may have stories as well rattle around in your head, biblical stories, stories from other traditions, notions that the benefit of the welcome doesn't just flow one way. So let's explore the radical part. If we can agree that to be welcoming is a good thing, how do we get to an extreme point of welcoming? Not just a good welcome, but a radical one. I think it describes an all-in hospitality. The welcome goes beyond politely tolerating people who are different from us. A radical welcome actively seeks out and affirms and includes others, especially people who may have been excluded or marginalized or dismissed or described as some sort of an other. It's a gathering in of the outcasts. It's making all welcome. It's a proactive welcome. Not just everyone is welcome who shows up, but actively working to remove barriers and signal to all that we are fundamentally and structurally about open arms. It manifests in embracing groups like LGBTQ plus people, disabled people, indigenous communities, people of color, immigrants, and letting them know they're appreciated, that they belong with us. Not just benevolence, but a true recognition there is work here that is reciprocal and mutual. The welcoming in those seeming outsiders makes some kind of transformation of how we see ourselves, that they are the catalyst for changing and enriching our community. And there's wonder in that act. But it is one thing to welcome in the disabled, and it's something entirely different to invite in those who don't share our values, whom we find questionable or even reprehensible. That line came from a discussion with a man named Steve Wells. You may know him. Anyway, I wasn't going to include that, but there it is. Do we extend our radical welcome to all of them as well? I have no answers, but there does seem to be a question at the core of radical welcome. On another, less controversial note, our own Al Poplaski wrote an article that was published in the Daily News. The article focuses on the benefits of transitioning from natural gas heat, as we had here, to mini-split electrical heating and making our building more resilient in times when natural gas flow is disrupted. But I can see radical welcoming inside this as well. Our church is a credible refuge for those who need it in our community. We also play this role regularly with providing family promise housing. And during the remodel, I've learned that Joel Hamilton was here daily, overseeing the changes and watching the construction. We are so fortunate to have folks who are personally invested in this place, this community. We worked to make this building welcome when we were planning the elevator for those who want to move about without stairs, and that's a physical manifestation of the notion we want to be welcoming. But there are structural signs in how we as Unitarian Universalists are fundamentally welcoming. Ryan has mentioned recently how our leadership functions not by hierarchy, but through a shared governance. So each part is linked and conversant and shared. There is an inclusivity here that goes beyond friendliness to respectful celebration of diversity. At least that's how it seems to me. How did we get here? Ginger and Sam have some thoughts they'd like to share. Videos will follow. And before and after, and between all the videos, we are inserting a poem. It's called All That We Share is Sacred by Andrea Moll.
As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, this is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins.
In my ministry here, my understanding of what it means to be radically inclusive and welcoming has shifted. We often think of welcome as something we offer when someone arrives. We learn their name or we invite them to join us. But radical welcome begins earlier. We have to prepare for people before we know exactly who they will be. As an example, for many years, our religious education classrooms were in a turn-of-the-century house that sat beside the church. It was a beloved space, but it was not accessible. I often worried about what would happen if a child who used a wheelchair or other physically assistive device came to join us. We would have wanted to welcome them, but they could not enter the physical community we had created. Years passed and that child never arrived, not because families with differing abilities were absent from our wider community, but because an inaccessible building communicates who has been expected and who we are not ready for. Accessibility was a driving force behind our renovation. Since then, young people who use wheelchairs have moved through our spaces with ease, comfort, and dignity. This is radical welcome, removing barriers before someone has to ask and creating spaces for people whose names we don't even yet know. Now we can continue that work throughout our shared ministry, examining our assumptions, traditions, invisible barriers, so that when people arrive, they discover that a place that has already been prepared for them.
When I open the door to greet you, that's where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that's where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that's where courage begins.
Every Sunday, this service reaches people in this room and people hundreds of miles away, on their laptops, in their kitchens, in hospital rooms, in cars and parking lots. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because a lot of people, for a lot of years, decided that radical hospitality wasn't just a theme for a renovation, it was a call to action. This is the story of how we got here. Not long ago, our entire sound system ran through the attic. It worked mostly, but the wiring up there also happened to pick up local radio stations. If you go back and listen to some of our older recorded services, you can actually hear sports talk radio bleeding into the background. Recording a service meant using a camcorder. Afterward, it was burned to a disc. Every copy was physical, a hard drive, a disc, a tape. If it wasn't in this building, it did not exist. That was our system for a long time, and it served us well. But it was fragile, and it was limited to the people who happened to be in the room. When the pandemic sent us online in early 2020, Paul Thompson ran our services on nothing more than a Dell laptop and a second screen. Most of us had never even heard of Zoom, let alone used it for something this important. While we couldn't meet in person, we made the leap and began our long-planned building renovation. The sound system wasn't originally part of that plan, but it became clear that if we were serious about radical hospitality, about actually welcoming people in wherever they were, our AV needed to change too. Rod Sprague designed the original roadmap for the new digital mixer and soldered the first microphone connections. I picked up the soldering iron for the first time in my life in order to finish getting the setup and added HD video and data ports, then built the local area network that let every device talk to each other. By then, UUCP had become fluent in Zoom, and our weekly workflow kept getting more efficient. We learned to produce collaborative content. Joys and sorrows, readings, and meditations all were submitted ahead of time, recorded, and then mixed with music. Video then had to be edited, collaborative music had to be tracked and then recorded. When we moved into the new building, we tried running the entire service off of one high-powered laptop that John Poole had donated. We quickly learned that each service element needed its own machine and its own pathway, something we could duplicate or replace quickly if it failed. That's part of why the booth looks so complicated. Every screen and every device has one single job. Just as importantly, we ran the new wiring under the sanctuary instead of through the attic, which solved most of the interference problems. We moved the ambient microphones closer to the mixer, and when noise still creeps in, we've added inline RF filters to clean up the signal. Today, a typical Sunday looks like this. Our MacBook Air hosts the Zoom meeting and pulls audio straight from the digital mixer. A second laptop runs the slides, lyrics, readings, anything that needs to go on the screen. The third laptop sits in the Zoom meeting as a participant, so our online congregation can see and be seen, and so we can actively monitor for any problems in real time. Our live stream runs through an ATEM Mini Extreme, which is basically a mixer but for videos, and we switch between 4 remote-controlled PTZ cameras. We originally started with 2, and then John Poole donated 2 additional cameras over the last couple of years. Last year, his generosity helped us to upgrade the mixer from a 16 to a 32 channel mixer, letting us dedicate a channel to each service element. We now run 6 wireless microphones alongside our fixed inputs on and off the stage. We still offer the RF assisted listening devices at the name tag table. 2 years ago, we tried broadcasting straight into hearing aids over Bluetooth, but the audio lag made it unworkable. We'll keep exploring that option as the technology continues to improve. We've also added 4 Kindles so that people can follow along with Zoom's closed captions if they prefer. And because radical hospitality means more than just reaching people online, it means not building a system that only one person can run. I built this setup so that it doesn't depend only on me. Most Sundays I have help from a University of Idaho assistant, and when I'm on my own, I can run the entire service virtually from the piano, using nothing but a laptop and a second screen. After each service, we upload to YouTube. We trim the time for all ages and joys and sorrows for our privacy. We keep 2 full recordings of every service, one straight from the ATEM and the board, and one directly from the Zoom meeting. Both are backed up physically on hard drives in the music office and online on our Google Drive workspace. Joe Palin maintains all of our digital media. Sticking with Zoom rather than other streaming platforms has let us keep our digital privacy standards intact and continue to have a secure meeting backed with a password-protected option. We recently added 2 new QSC speakers to the back of the room, and the difference in depth and clarity has been remarkable. Those speakers will be permanently installed in the coming weeks. But this system was never meant to be finished. Radical hospitality is a moving target, and it means we keep asking who isn't being reached yet and what's standing in the way. Every improvement we make in the room and online is in service of that question. None of this, the cameras, the mixer, the Zoom room, the quiet hum of a system that mostly just works, happened because of one person. It happened because volunteers gave their time, donors gave generously, and a lot of people believed that welcoming this congregation meant welcoming everyone, wherever they happened to be sitting. As we welcome a new chapter in our ministry, this system will keep evolving, because radical hospitality is never really finished.
when we experience the full presence of each other. Because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins.
May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred.